Yeah, it almost feels like the opposite of what Salesforce is doing in some respects. That Agent Force is creating a net new technology agents based on Salesforce's deep AI research and some of their missteps with Slack and all. But they spent a whole lot of money on AI and chatbots and this type of agentic interaction.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Analysts Gone Wild, or Grumpy. I think Donald had coined this term before he's back. I think he has been here only once. So this is going to be a fun series. I mean, we review enterprise software stories every Thursday at 11 a.m. So we are going to start with quick intros of everyone. Hyun, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'm Hyun Park, founder of Amalgam Insights. I've been running this firm for about 8 years. I've been an industry analyst for about 17 years in total, but I'm actually about to be moving out of the industry analyst role at the end of June. So I'm enjoying my last few moments here.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And Michael, do you want to go next?
Sure. Michael Fawcett. I've been in the tech industry for, 35 years or so. I forget at this point. And then I've been on the analyst side of it for about 20 years. I was at IDC for 10 and was the chief research officer at G2 for a while. And I started my firm 3.5 years ago, I guess, Arian Research. And mostly we focused on AI, CX, kind of the intersection around agentic, generative, that sort of thing.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. Ken, do you want to go next?
Sure thing. Ken Gonzalez here. My nickname's Ken Gon. Most people call me that, so please do so. I'm the lead analyst here at a Pretty Simple Group covering CIO topics and infrastructure and operations.
Okay, amazing. And Donald?
Oh, I'm Donald Farmer. I do not have a nickname that I know of, but
we can call you Don.
Not that you can say
nobody's told me.
It's certainly not late for the broadcast.
There you go. I'm a product guy by nature. I've been at Microsoft and Click, and I advise lots of software vendors on data and analytics strategy. And delighted to be here again.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here once, guys. And if you're in the audience joining for the first time, we are a big fan of this 3-way conversation. So make sure you guys post your comments, any sort of experiences you have with these stories. So guys, we are going to start with the first story. I'm going to provide quick brief here on this one, and then I'll open up the floor for the debate. So here we have Active Campaign. Most likely the people who are going to be in the CRM world are going to be familiar with who Active Campaign is. For the most part, they are more of the cost-effective marketing automation platform is how I would define them. But then lately, I guess now they have been acquired by private equity. So their pricing has changed substantially. That's my understanding. Their focus has been more on the B2C side for the most part. They have some B2B focus as well. And right now, it seems that they have acquired the WhatsApp automation platform. So they are obviously getting the comprehensive capabilities from the omnichannel perspective. So that's my understanding of the story. I'll open up the floor now.
I mean, I'll comment a little bit if you want, Sam. It's interesting. We did a show. One of the other shows that I do last summer was talking to some folks that are CRM experts in Latin America, and this fits really well into what they told us, that in fact in Latin America and a lot of other countries too, but Latin America, WhatsApp is really the default communication, and if you don't have those channels, you're really going to have a difficult time meeting the needs and creating the right experience. So I think this is just an interesting play to get, to buy access to that channel and add that to their communication channels. ActiveCampaign's been a big player in the mid market, so I guess this will beef up their out of the U.S. kind of presence as well.
Yeah, could not agree more.
Yeah,
I'm shocked.
Michael, can I?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to ask Michael, with your experience in Latin America, regulation and privacy regulation in Europe is very stringent. Privacy regulation in Latin America seems to actually to be getting very stringent as well. Is that a break? And is that going to have a kind of holding back effect on this?
You're right about that. They've had several privacy initiatives across the different countries, and it is GDPR like in a way. I think WhatsApp is such a highly adopted platform that I suspect there's not a lot of ways you could regulate that out of the culture already, and I think that's the big issue, right? It's so established that you can regulate the use of the data, good, but you're not going to eliminate that as a channel. So I think if you're going to do business there, you pretty much have to be able to have that as one of your communication channels across the system.
So, Donald, just one comment on that. And as far as my understanding goes, even though WhatsApp looks very slick in general in terms of the communication, but it is supposed to be one of the most encrypted platform. I have personally seen people trusting WhatsApp more than email. Can you believe this? In terms of the encrypted communication, not too sure about GDPR, but overall, from the security perspective, WhatsApp is definitely good. And that's why I think a lot of places they are doing financial transactions, businesses, government, they all use WhatsApp as the business channel.
Right, and to a certain extent, you can distinguish WhatsApp from the parent company Meta, which has its own reputational interests, which maybe in some sense.
Interest is the right word, I guess. Yeah.
You know where I'm going.
Yeah. Hyun, you had a comment, I guess.
I think this is an interesting interstitial step. First of all, I'm shocked that there's no mention of agentic in this press release, where I feel like there's been so much of that over the past month. But the idea that this is a two-way conversation inbox, I feel like that is a starting point, but doesn't quite get to the analysis of personalized interaction. At this point, we're starting to expect AI to do a little bit of work with understanding the memory associated with conversations and being able to get into personalized preferences. And I'm not sure I see much of that in this particular announcement. This seems to be more designed to create a personalized channel associated with each person who's being contacted with WhatsApp, which is a great first step for making sure that you have that information in place. But it seems like there could be additional work done to further personalize the conversation based on transactions and other activities and memory of prior conversations over time.
Yeah, I think the one thing in here that jumps out around that, Hyun, and that's a really good point. There is a no-code platform in there to build out personalization, so they don't really talk about AI much, but I'd suspect that's a direction, right? Because I mean that is where everything's going, so it would make sense to have some sort of autonomous agent to work across those channels.
More comments, guys, on this story, or no? Okay, we can go to the next one. So this is a very interesting story as well. This is coming from AG Insights, which in my mind would be more of the analyst firm. And they have sort of released the AG Revenue Growth Intelligence Fabric. And obviously there are a lot of things here overall from the buzzword perspective that you guys might find a little funny. And they are talking about, simplify and strengthen GTM execution to identify market opportunities, which is great. Obviously, AG has data, but I don't know how reliable that data is going to be. So personally, when I look at the story, I guess I'm excited. Now they are talking AI powered. Everybody's saying AI powered, but I don't know how AI powered that is. Now people are simply coining AI word just because, for the same database that they had for last 30 years. So I don't know. What's your take, guys, on this?
Well, I looked at this and looking at the whole behind the firewall customer data, it's yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That jumps out for certain, and then plays right into on your comments on privacy. That's an interesting one. I felt like they were trying to go for real time intent data or behavioral data, but they didn't really. That whole behind the firewall thing is a bit of a flag in my book, anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they talk about, fairly limited range of information they want to extract from that about technographics and
Right.
usage, which suggests that they're not going to be looking at personal identifiable information. But I actually think there's just they're opening up a can of worms here if we take it at face value. Luckily, they're a marketing company, so we don't need to take it at face value.
Fair point. But I do admit that putting in your press release that you get behind the firewall data doesn't seem like the best marketing. But that's just me. What do I know?
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of this feels kind of like TechTarget, which has been around for quite a while and has been done intent-based marketing. When I started at the Aberdeen Group, when I actually started my analyst career, we actually did similar work. We did survey-based research and sold intent-based leads to customers based on who was downloading our research. So a lot of this does not seem all that new, to be honest. I think the devil's in the details on how smart this co-pilot ends up being. I do think there's this future-facing idea around research firms where perhaps you sell access to the past 12 months of what you've done in some sort of agentic or co-pilot type of way. And our advantage increasingly as analysts becomes our ability to look at the future and keep up to date, because AI does a lousy job of predicting the future or understanding the present, really.
Yeah, we did the same sort of thing at G2. We launched that in like 2017 or something, I guess, intent data. And that's, if you think about a marketplace site like G2, you've got all the traffic, you've got a lot of really interesting behavioral data that you can just take off of your site. You're not, getting any from anywhere else, but, and then they augment that with other sources. But I mean, it is something that a lot of companies are interested in. So I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe that's the play.
Yeah. More comments? No? All right, we can move to the next one. All right, so this is another CRM story from HubSpot, and you guys might be excited here because at least we have some AI. So far in this panel, everybody was sort of tired of AI, so it was refreshing to see one story without AI, but we have AI again. So here we have Dashworks. And again, I think this is more about the conversation intelligence, if my understanding is right. And HubSpot has done a lot of work in aligning the structured, unstructured data. They are doing a lot, but I don't know if this is commercial so far. If you guys have seen any sort of use cases, where it is working or they are able to charge some sort of money for these capabilities. I don't know. But yeah, I'll open up the floor.
I mean, the thing about this is it's more about getting access to the data that's not in CRM, right? That's the real challenge for HubSpot in the past. And so I used to think of enterprise search as sort of poor man's integration, and that is sort of what you're looking at here as a way to get to data across the whole enterprise easily, or more easily than you would otherwise. So to me, that's the thing. It really does beef up the assistant with access to a lot more, or potentially access to a lot more data across the business.
Yeah.
My understanding of this deal is that it's an acqui-hire rather than a technology acquisition.
Probably, yeah.
So, and I think that's fair enough. Dashworks an excellent team. They already had an HubSpot integration, so there was. They know the HubSpot technology pretty well, but it'd be very interesting to see if anything actually happens to the Dashwork platform at all. I kind of doubt it. I suspect it's going to go away, and this really is a genuine acqui-hire.
Yeah.
But I think the use case being something that could be integrated into HubSpot, just the idea of making it easier to access external data beyond your top 20 or 30 applications, because it feels like every application has your basic integrations with whatever 20, 30, 50, maybe even 100 or 200 if you are doing a great job on your integrations. But 1,800 seems significant enough to be different, especially at the mid-market level where you don't have time to necessarily invest in your iPaaS and figure out a deep integration strategy.
So on that comment, I guess my question is going to be, okay, so these are obviously their app integrations and the marketplace integrations. Number one, I don't think they all are going to be present in all of the installations. And I don't know if they are allowing the access to their data because, when you look at the app, third-party app, HubSpot does not own that. Somebody else does. So I don't know if they are opening up the floodgates for them to be able to study, which would be shocking. But obviously, since they are integrating through HubSpot, they have a little bit of clout in terms of what they can do to their partners. But that's a very sensitive conversation in my mind. So that's the risk that I would see. I don't know what you guys think of that.
I think it's more. Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, I think, in fact, that is probably the point of this, right? It's enterprise search capabilities to access that data in a much more lightweight way than having to go in and build all those specific APIs and integrations. So, I don't know, but it seems to me like it is a pretty good way for a mid-market company to accelerate access to that data.
So my point was going to be about the mid-market company. HubSpot's sweet spot is small and medium business, and if this is going to work for those customers, the quality of integration and the simplicity of use has got to be really very, very straightforward to do this. And it's difficult to know how you're going to make something like this straightforward enough for an SMB who doesn't have the technical skills or perhaps even the AI experience to make this work. So I'd be really interested to see how they simplify this experience to the point that an SMB can effectively use it. I think that's going to be a challenge. I happen to think Dashworks did a pretty good job of it, so I'm not grumpy about this one. I'm reasonably confident they can do it, but I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, so at least one story is not making him grumpy, which is good.
I should just drop off now, right? I've done.
Okay, so we have some comment from the audience. Let's review that. So Leonard has one comment on this story. So we can capture that right now. So he's saying maybe HubSpot is trying to catch up to the agent force that Salesforce offers. Yes, they have two different markets, mid versus enterprise, but I'm sure they, means HubSpot, want to move up market too. So there are a couple of comments, and I don't know how you guys are going to feel on my comment, but from my experience, HubSpot, the way the system is designed, I don't think it's designed for enterprise use cases. It's going to be really hard unless you are looking at only marketing automation. They are used for marketing automation use cases among the enterprise as well. But when you look at the core CRM, I don't think data model supports that, or they have the kind of development framework that either Salesforce, Microsoft's, of the world are going to offer. The second thing is agent force. So overall, I guess when I look at HubSpot, not HubSpot, Salesforce. Salesforce is doing much better job, I guess, when I look at the enterprise agent use cases. I don't know if I have seen that from HubSpot, and I don't even know if they are going to be interested in that, because what Salesforce is doing is they are taking very platform-centric approach. They are opening up the whole economy. I guess that's how I see it. HubSpot, the economy is there, but in the mid-market, it's just not the same. That would be my take.
I mean, it's a different play. HubSpot's always chasing Salesforce from a competitive perspective. So that's, yes, but
on social
media. In this case, I think in this case specifically, though, I think It's not really aimed towards Agentforce so much as it's more of a lighter weight answer to get to that integrated data picture that Data Cloud already provides in Salesforce. So I'd say it's more along those lines, and Agentforce certainly offers much more robust enterprise level agents to build. And then from a HubSpot perspective, they do have some upmarket movement and they do have some enterprise clients. But if you look at it pretty close, a lot of those are just departmental solutions, not full blown enterprise implementations.
Yeah,
I mean, I think Leonard's point that he made is a good one. That this is a catch up to a certain extent, but I think. To Mike's point, I think it's actually a defensive catch-up rather than an aggressive catch-up. It's not that they're going after Salesforce space; they're trying to defend against it. I think.
Yeah, it almost feels like the opposite of what Salesforce is doing in some respects. That Agentforce is creating a net new technology agents based on Salesforce's deep AI research and some of their missteps with Slack and all. But they've spent a whole lot of money on AI and chatbots and this type of agentic interaction, no doubt. And so they've already built out a lot of the things needed to build agents, whereas HubSpot has not made that same type of investment. And so it's almost like a reverse act here, where HubSpot, instead of creating its own agentic ecosystem, is making itself more available to other applications, perhaps maybe being more embeddable into other applications and more ubiquitous. We're going to have to see how this actually works out, but it could be a step in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's a great assessment. Okay. So thank you so much for the comment, Leonard, once again. And our audience, please keep commenting. We love your comments. We'd love to see more. So if you guys don't have anything on this story, you can move to the next one. Yeah. All right. So we have one more. This is Sitecore. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sitecore. They are CMS. I don't know how much they are recognized today, but obviously they are in the enterprise space. They do a lot of work in the Microsoft ecosystem. That's my understanding of their platform. Now the lines keep getting blurred between your CRM and CMS. Obviously every player has different sort of bundle and offering how they like to go to the market. So here they are talking about AI Innovation Lab and journey. I don't know. How to read this story. Seems like the only thing I'm getting out of this one is they are working on a lot of AI stuff, nothing else. Unless you guys are seeing anything else that I'm not seeing.
To me, it just seems like another innovation lab concept, right? We get together, we make some partners, we're there to help you. You come in, you prototype what you need, you're sold, you leave. It's good. It's certainly useful from a customer perspective, but I don't know. I don't think there's anything unique in there that I could see anyway.
Yeah,
but they're the first. They said they're the industry's first. So.
Everybody's first.
Yeah, they're the first with that specific name. Absolutely.
Yes.
To be fair to Sitecore, they have got a pretty good reputation with their customers for sort of co-creation, co-innovation. So it's I think, of course, there's quite a lot of hype here, but they have typically done really good work between that sort of triangle of Sitecore, their customers, and Microsoft has been pretty effective for their customers. You've never seen the big breakthrough that they've always claimed was just around the corner next quarter.
Around the corner,
but I think, to be fair to them, they do a very good job with the kind of customer-centric innovation, customer co-innovation. I think so. This is probably there's a bit of marketing in here, but there may be some reality to it as well.
And joking aside, I do think there's an interesting conceptual idea of having a more ethical AI process that really does put the customer first or the individual first. And if Sitecore goes in that direction, I actually think there's some interesting work they could end up releasing, some interesting press releases that they could put out there to differentiate from the rest of the market from an AI perspective, because frankly, most AI is designed to sell more stuff for the vendor.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing too is it's definitely, I mean, I think you're right, Don. It's good for the customers, and most of these innovation concept labs have worked out well to bring some partners together and give them access to different experts and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't downplay it. Certainly, I think it's interesting, but I'm not sure it's a unique offering, I guess.
I think in general, one thing we can say about AI and innovation for customers is that a lot of AI that I see is vendors being very prescriptive about what their AI can do. We've built it, and we've seen like 2 or 3 of these already today. You know, we built this co-pilot, and it's going to do this thing for you. And I think this is actually an interesting approach. You know, you come to us and learn with us what's going to work for you. Seems to me a much more adaptive approach to AI innovation than we've built this thing that you're going to want to consume because we think it's great. I'm kind of hopeful about that.
And, you know, the other thing that makes me think too is think about most of the solutions you're going to see. If you look at the whole company, it's not going to be one vendor solution. You're going to end up having to integrate across an ecosystem anyway. So having some place to go work on parts of that seems good from a customer perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, more comments, guys. If you don't, sorry, Ken, you had something?
Yeah, I'll add a comment here. I think that given the ecosystem that they play in, being able to create some daylight so that you stand out from all the other partners in the ecosystem is probably a really good thing, especially when customers, have broad adoption of Copilot because of the nature of the enterprise licensing agreements. Being able to answer the question, like, what should we do to enable people that fulfill certain roles to be more effective around curation and propagation of content? I think that would probably be helpful.
Yeah, great point. More comments? If not, next story? Okay, next story. All right, so this is a very interesting story as well. This is Slack Adopt. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. Seems like they are into this whole ad tracking space, which is very interesting because I don't know if we have covered any sort of vendors in this space. So this is going to be the multi-channel programmatic advertising platform. And I don't know, how crowded this space is. In this particular case, they are talking about strengthening their CTV offering, which is great. But again, I don't know if you guys have more insights in terms of the market where they play. Floor? No? Nobody?
Not really. Definitely not an area that I cover. So sorry.
Well, yeah, I've done a little bit of work in this space. I think if you know this space at all, the line that stands out for you here is when it says that it's offering to provide greater transparency into connected TV advertising. Greater transparency means some transparency. Right now, there's almost like zero transparency in connected TV. It's a very obscure area for a whole lot of reasons. I mean, just even on the hardware side, the supply chains, the inventory is really opaque. Who's actually using this stuff is really difficult. So difficult to get visibility into advertising placements. And there are companies like iSpot TV who are doing really very, very focused advertising tracking using with connected TVs. That's always kind of interesting. The way that works is your connected TV at home, for example, is going through your router, which is the same, of course, as your laptops and your tablets and your phones, and therefore they know if you've watched a commercial for Ford during the Super Bowl, they know that router. They don't know the device or the person, but they do know that router has also visited the Ford site, the website within 24 hours of seeing the commercial, and therefore they can provide you with some sort of idea that the commercial was effective. But that's about the limit of what they can do, and that's not. It's a little bit actionable. Whether StackAdapt can really provide the transparency and the accuracy that they're claiming, it's such a. It really is such an obscure area just now that any transparency is greater transparency.
Yeah, great point. More comments?
I wonder how this will affect things like so when we think of TV ratings and share, we tend to think of brands like Nielsen that provide relatively limited sample sizes and are very targeted in the types of TV that they are tracking. And this seems like a more multi-channel programmatic way to be able to look at traffic, at least on the outbound side. And I'm wondering if maybe they could use this approach to also finally figure out how, say, YouTube is competing against HBO Plus, is competing against Netflix, is competing against ABC, across the board, because it really isn't a great way to compare how Mr. Beast compares to, whatever is on, CBS.
Well, I think when you bring up Nielsen there's a very important point here, which is Nielsen is highly accurate, but not necessarily generalizable to the entire population. And what StackAdapt are offering is something which will be generalizable, but not necessarily accurate. And what is it you actually want as an advertiser?
Put the two together, huh?
Right, wouldn't that be great?
Only if there was a way to correlate them. In my personal experience, it's very hard to correlate these data sets.
Oh yeah.
I would not have guessed that Hyun was into the television he is apparently watching, but I couldn't have predicted that.
Yeah. If you guys don't have anything else, we'll move to the next one. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so this is a very consistent story. I guess we have probably covered 5 or 6 along the same lines, and this is also Pi-Fi partnership. They are super hot. Every single consulting company wants to do something with them. I don't know how successful the approach is, but seems like Accenture is doing this as well. Again, very, very, very similar approach as any other consulting firms out there. And I don't know where this is going to go, so I'm going to have very similar, comment here on this story as well. Now, you guys, what's your take?
I mean, if you think about the idea, and Salesforce uses this a lot, and I particularly like it, that this is a digital workforce enabler. Then if you're looking to build a digital workforce, would you just go get a platform and build them? Well, you could, but if you had a place to go where there are a lot of agents that were already, 80%, 90% of what you need, wouldn't it be simpler to just go shop for that agent? It's like hiring a specific employee that meets a job description, find an agent that meets your agent description and do that. So I mean, from that perspective, it seems like a pretty good business play to have some of those in your pocket already ready to go when you start working with clients around this topic. So
yeah, great comment. More comments, guys, on this one?
Well, not only that, but I think that there's a double benefit that Accenture would get from a play like this. The first is to be able to take bench strength that you're already paying for, and if you don't have them in a billable position, be able to use them to actually build out infrastructure that you can use, which can help consume some of that dead time. And then the second thing is being able to use any of those components yourself so that you gain more efficiency, and you could actually drive some pretty decent case studies if you wanted to, and use that as part of your marketing push to promote this in the field.
Well, and you get training for all those bench sitters too. So that's the other thing. They get experience where they wouldn't have otherwise. So that's good.
Yeah. Go ahead, Donald.
So I'm a little surprised at the number 450 AI agents, which suggests to me, given the the kind of use cases they're talking about, that suggests to me that these agents must be very, very granular in what they do. Which then makes me think: are they really agents in a sense, or are they really just automation steps in a data pipeline process? And I suspect these are automation steps in the data pipeline process that have been given the name agents to make this sound a bit more AI-like. That's not to say they're not autonomous, but I'd expect the example they're given, the example you've got on the screen, validating documents, synchronizing forms, standardizing due dates, executive summaries, updating processing times. Why isn't that one agent? I mean, is that 10 agents that they've listed there? That seems like one process automation agent should be able to do that. So I'm a little puzzled by the granularity of it.
Yeah,
I will say that go ahead.
Oh, yeah. When I think of an AI agent, I think of something that is specifically AI and agent. I think of something that is task-based. It can go step by step. It can autonomously work. It can figure out if it needs additional information and come back and ask the user. Yeah. And then it can potentially also work with other agents in what I've seen is called an agency of agents. To get more complex tasks done. But there's also, like the rest of you have been saying, this confusion about whether an agent actually can do all of that in an AI-enabled way, or whether we're just talking about a workflow or a low-code, no-code app, or even just an API call that goes through a chatbot.
Well, and the thing is, certainly when we started looking at agents and agentic to look in the enterprise, they were looking for broader application, more general agents. Now, all of a sudden, we're starting to see a shift that's much more granular into these smaller incremental processes that are assigned to, this agent and acts with another agent. Multi-agent systems are becoming it's a topic, and how do you orchestrate them and that sort of thing. So it seemed to me like that's just probably jumping into that same trend that says analyze the process, break it down, and then you have very specific agents that execute pieces of that process. So, and the other thing is, it's hard to say, is it agentic? Is it not? Is it autonomous? Is it not? Because the truth is, it's this long sort of paradigm shift or matrix that says across this they have different levels of autonomy and agency depending on the use case. So I don't, it sort of depends on what it's being used for more than anything, I think, and how much you trust it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but at least for right now, this feels like there's still a lot of human knitting going around to pick and choose these agents, while the Gen AI still gets to write poetry and write music.
Yeah, I'll make just one comment, I guess, based on the comments that have been made, regarding the consulting firms and their bench time. My understanding is that there is no more bench, I guess, because if you don't get a billable, job within 30 days, you are out. That's my understanding, even in developing countries where the cost is relatively low. So I don't think there is any more bench in the consulting industries.
So I hope somebody's told the agents that.
Right?
The bench is only applicable for agents now. They are permanently on bench. I don't know when they are going to be billable.
We've adopted you, but within 30 days, you're going back to the... we're giving you back.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have more comments on this one.
There is a comment on the feed.
Let's discuss that. So here, Michael is saying, do these new agent-focused service offerings fit into the current business model for consulting firms? Are their new pricing models? So I think, Michael, this is what we have been discussing. So right now, as far as my understanding goes, it's not clear in terms of, how this is going to fit overall, I guess, who is going to own what. Consulting firms are developing their own process-centric models. Software firms are doing very duplicate work, in my mind at least. So I don't know who is going to have the long-term revenue, but right now everybody's trying to do very, very, very similar things. It might normalize after a certain point, I guess, once we have the natural home for these offerings. But for now, I guess, they are simply developing, and in the R&D phase, that's going to be my understanding.
Yeah. I mean, it's more of like, and there are a lot of discussion around pricing models for sure for agents, especially when you sort of get into the service world where they're using a platform or they built a platform, which one, right? Because if they're using another platform, then there's pass through that has to go back there, or is it direct? And so there's a lot of questions about exactly what, what's being done here. And you're starting to see other, SIs are starting to develop some sort of a agentic platform. So that makes it clearer that they're the ones who are going to be pricing those agents that are, that are being consumed.
Yeah, but it seems hard to imagine that you could just charge, say, $300 an hour for an agent to be on, because we're just used to thinking about agents more in a transactional perspective or a task-based accomplishment perspective. And maybe this means that there will be more focus on outcomes-based pricing instead, simply putting an agent in place and then maybe a yearly cost or something. There's definitely room here for new pricing models.
Yeah, if you think about goal focused, which is the point of autonomous, right? They are now, you're able to assign goals and objectives, and then you could measure against that. There is some chance that you could get to performance based. The agentic platform that I've been playing around with, Lindy, it's just a token based model, and that seems like the most common thing right now, because that's certainly the easiest way to implement the pricing. Is it the best way? I don't know, and certainly it's less predictable that way, which is a problem for a lot of companies. So I don't know.
Yes, because you can just ask an agent, think harder, and suddenly it costs twice as many tokens, and you get the same outcome.
That's exactly right.
Degree of thinking. Okay, so if you guys don't have any other comments on that, we'll go to the next story, I guess. Any more comments on this story? No? Okay. All right. So the next one is Kamuda. And they are also doing some sort of agentic orchestration. And I don't know, I'm probably not, I don't think we have covered any sort of stories about them. But this seems to be more of the infrastructure play as far as my understanding goes. Orchestration, automation. There are many vendors out there that are doing that. I don't know if Pi-Fi is going to be in a similar space, but if I look at both of these offerings, probably they are similar. I don't know, you guys might know more. But here they are talking about composable enterprise architecture. I don't know if anybody is sort of excited about composable architecture anymore. That was a thing probably in 2020s, not in this economy.
Yeah, but the point of this is that what we were just talking about, the multi-agent idea, right? The more granular and the more agents you have, the more you have to manage them. So you could think of this as the digital workforce management solution that helps them work together and collaborate and that sort of thing. So I mean, orchestration is going to be a hot topic as companies think about deploying more agents and more granular agents. So it's interesting from that perspective anyway.
Yeah. More comments, guys, on this one?
Well, I do struggle a little bit with this one because I think the multi-agent approach makes sense, but I'm seeing companies now develop what you might call stables of agents. Where the agents themselves are able to coordinate and bring in other agents, and so it's not even just a composable architecture; it's kind of self-composing process. Where an agent can say, well, I need another agent to perform this task, and they'll go out and do that. And I think that self-composable enterprise might be a lot more interesting than the previous generation of composable architectures. But it doesn't look like Kamunda's going quite in that direction yet. It's still orchestration of a sort of predefined architecture. And I'd be interested to see how adaptive and self-composing this could be.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see a lot of different models for multi-agent orchestration too, right? So you're just talking about a hierarchical model, which makes a lot of sense, that you have a kind of a manager agent that gets the other agents to do the things that they need to do in a and evolves over time as it learns. I mean, there's other ways to do it. You can see agent to agent directly, or maybe there's even human agent team kind of model of orchestration that has to be if you need the human in the loop or human on the loop, that sort of thing.
The thing I like about this is it's more akin to me speaking to the nature of a digital twin, where somebody who's actually fulfilling the role of whatever the role in the process or the function is, being able to use that as like being able to coordinate the activity. So if a decision, like what you were talking about, Michael, with the human in the loop or human on the loop, where engagement's required in order to figure out what the right thing to be doing is, that's where the actual person would engage so that you can, set it off in the right direction.
Yeah, one thing I'm not completely clear about from this press release is with this process orchestration, how much the agents are limited by legacy prescriptive process orchestration. So does this logic, this layer of logic end up limiting the agentic capabilities that are here, or does it augment existing agentic capabilities to also get work done? Because if you're just locking down all your old stuff and putting in a chatbot layer on top of it and calling that, agentic, that's quite different from actually creating new agents that can also work with all the other stuff that you've done before.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it seems like they're trying to say, but they don't really talk about that explicitly. So that's a fair point. And the idea that the agents are working across a continuum of autonomy. So some are more autonomous than others, and which ones, what are their specialties? I mean, it really does in a lot of ways fit that workforce paradigm, because you have to think of it that way. What do I want them to do? What are the goals? What's the performance, and measure the performance, that sort of thing. What are the rewards?
Yeah. So based on the comments, I guess I have one question, maybe for Donald, because he coined the term, self-managed agents, and if others have inputs on that as well, I would love to hear those. So overall, when you look at self-managed agents, and self-composability, I guess, is the term that you were talking about. Overall, when you look at the composable architecture, at least from the infrastructure deployment perspective, the instances were self-manageable in the composable architecture as well. Obviously, you cannot create the bits and pieces of the process. You cannot rewrite the logic. And I don't know, in this new world, are you guys envisioning that the self-managed or self-create agents can create the agents themselves if they have a need? Is that how you guys are seeing this? Or is it only the scalability aspect?
It's one way that could be done. If you think about that hierarchical model of control, then you would want that manager to be able to hire and or create, in some instances, the right agent to do the thing that they're trying to accomplish from a goal perspective. So I think it depends, but yeah, that is certainly something that you're going to see more and more as you get more towards autonomy or agency.
Real autonomy is going to be when the agent itself decides to change the flow of the logic. Right now, we have agents which are autonomous within a logical flow that is predefined for them. It'd be really interesting to see at what point agents are actually given autonomy over the business logic, or even over. I mean, obviously, there's obviously going to be guardrails around them all the time, but even to be able to set their own objectives would be super interesting. Just now, an agent is focused on delivering an objective, and whether an agent could actually change that objective and say, actually, we think we should be focused more on this aspect of process efficiency rather than this aspect of, say, financial optimization. Could be very interesting.
The thing I like about what Don's saying, and I have been thinking about this for quite a long time, is that I think we need to do more work around describing and capturing the outcome in a way that the person that's either consuming or getting the benefit of the work that's being done, having that be so that you can use that as a way of being able to feed that to the agents and let the AI decide, well, gee, what actual set of component part agents that I'm using, what gives me the best outcome with a certain range of parameters, like whether it's managing the cost, managing the time, those guardrails.
Yeah, great points, guys.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead, Donald.
No, I was just agreeing. That articulates exactly what I was trying to say.
Okay, perfect. So we have one comment. So Leonard is saying it seems to be a lot of fluff here. I would want to understand more ROI and actions. So that's right. Obviously there's a lot of fluff here. There's no question about that. ROI, I'm not too sure if you guys have seen any sort of practical case studies. Even if you are going to have some sort of case studies, in the market, in my mind, they are going to be very RPA-like. And I'm not trying to throw RPA under the bus, but for the most part, when you look at the pragmatic, case studies, it's going to be rare, at least for the next couple of years. Just because the market is very tight at this point of time. There might be some disruptors, early adopters that might adopt these use cases. But when you talk about the real adoption, when you talk about the real market penetration, it might take a while to understand these initiatives.
I mean, you are starting to see case studies from actual use of agents in different processes and different settings, and some ROI. But the ROI piece is early. I mean, a lot of companies are just moving out of proof of concept or pilots, that sort of thing, or it's limited deployment or whatever. But I mean, you definitely are seeing vendors, and I'm sure some of us are probably working on some of those case studies right now, to be honest. So yeah, I think it is happening. It's just we're kind of at that point now where there are some opportunities to build case studies because you are starting to see results from some of those early adopters.
Yeah, the tricky thing about return on investment is that I've done a lot of ROI case studies and over the years, and you need 6 to 12 months in production to be able to measure return accurately. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the return happening right now with agents comes from eliminating work and freeing up time, but freeing up that time only really provides value if you're able to reallocate it to some sort of value-added activity, which requires a modicum of managerial skill or creativity or imagination, which companies don't always have. So you might have two companies that are doing the exact same thing from an agentic perspective, but one company knows how to reuse their talent and the other might just end up laying somebody off, which is, I always think the dumbest way to do this. Like, you bothered to hire someone in the first place and well, whatever. And you're getting rid of them because you've got an agent to do the dumbest work. Whatever. But, editorializing aside, so ROI is going to be a little bit tricky to figure out over the next year, even when we get the functional proof points in place.
Yeah, and you have to be careful to define those metrics too, right? Which metrics matter in each use case and track against those over some period of time. So yeah, fair point.
Yeah, the big challenge, speaking at having worked in vendors for many years, I mean, the secret is always to get your white paper out before the project fails. But in terms of ROI, you also, what is the ROI now? People publish an ROI and say that we got this performance, which is great. But a year later, what does it look like? That's the real measure. It's not just many projects are successful and do show ROI in achieving their initial objectives. In the long term, that project might not even be sustainable. And going back and looking at ROI 2-3 years later starts to get much more interesting. And I really annoys me the fact that so much of what we talk about in ROI in this industry is about initial ROI rather than long-term ROI.
Yeah. Well, in this case too, I mean, this whole agentic concept and field and the technology underneath is evolving so quickly that doing an assessment a year from now, they may have completely changed how those agents function and what technology they're using even. So it's going to be kind of squishy for a while probably, although I will say there are some use cases that are easier to document, like this RevOps use case, so you can track increases in revenue or that sort of thing. So some of them will probably demonstrate fairly easily, but there's a lot of them that are just going to be, we had productivity gains. Okay.
Yeah. And that cost structure is so hard right now. Like, agents are changing every month. Models are changing every month. like everything might get much more productive and easier to use over the next year or two, but you can also see compute just getting completely out of control.
Yeah.
Good.
So, Donald, I do have a question for you, with your comment related to the white paper. So let's say you are saying that, you want to get this white paper out or the case study out before project fails. But is there any value in doing that? Because if you do that, then, the customer may call that customer. The project has already failed. Your white paper is out, case study. And I don't know how helpful that is going to be. So how does that conversation go? I guess maybe you can tell me more.
When somebody does a white paper with a vendor, in some ways, I'm quite serious about what I said there, because when you have a new product or when you have a new technology, then inevitably the results that you put in the white paper to promote that new technology are from relatively new projects.
Yeah.
And very often, how do the call downs go? The call downs go fine because the project hasn't quite failed at that point. But I'll give you a really good example of it. In almost every vendor who produces a new technology, I had this argument with Microsoft, who used to work for, when they implemented the Q&A technology, their kind of natural language question and answer technology, and we were all told that Satya Nadella was using this every day. And so, what I want to speak to is a customer who's been using it for a year. Show me a customer that's been using this technology for a year. And it turns out they can't give me one because people use it for about 6-8 months and then they slowly drop it. Yeah. And that's really, if I was a customer, that's the question I would want. Not what's the ROI in this technology or tell me about this new technology, but put me in touch with somebody who's been using this technology for a year or 2 years. And then I'll get a really good response.
Yeah. Great comment there. So guys, we are close to our time. More comments on this one by any chance? If we don't have, then I guess that's probably going to be close. So any closing thoughts, any comments? We'll start in reverse now. Donald, do you want to go first?
No, that was great. Thank you. That was absolutely fascinating. The next time I'm going to have an agent take my place.
What's going to be a billing rate? I need to know that, Donald, before I can hire your agent.
Right. Yeah, I haven't worked out the conversation model. I'm working on the prompt to make it less grumpy.
Ken?
The thing especially with regards to this last story, the thing I would actually like to see more visibility raised around is really kind of like financial core knowledge, like being able to have more meaningful conversations about the time value of money, because typically we see the 3 buckets are CapEx, OpEx, and special projects budgets. And just trying to do the peanut butter spread has proven to really be a source of failure over the years. We really need to get beyond this and start thinking more about, the way people who do real finance actually start to think and bring some of that discipline into how we work, so that as we start considering what the cost of the things we provide are and the actual value that gets given back to the organization, those things we could get a lot of value from that without having to do a lot we don't need to be financial wizards, but we definitely need to upgrade our level of capability there.
Yeah. Great comment there. And I think Leonard has the branding for you, Donald. Grumpy.ai. Hopefully,
it's a startup idea.
Something for that.
There we go.
Yeah. Hopefully, somebody's going to pay something for that, I guess. Michael, over to you.
Sure. Well, the one thing that comes out of this, and I think is really important, and we're starting to have a conversation around, is this idea of orchestration. And again, take the digital workforce paradigm. What do we use in a regular workforce? We have some sort of workforce management platform. We have some HR platform. In this world of multiple agent systems, you're going to need some way to manage those agents. How do you get the right one? How do you ask for an agent if you're a manager and you want one? All those things are going to have to be worked out. We're doing these small projects and pilots and proof of concepts right now. But when you start to think about deploying 1,000 agents across a company or 10,000 agents across a company, you're talking about a serious orchestration and management problem that's going to have to be solved.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to tack onto what Mike was talking about, right now we're seeing announcements from everybody. I'm at Informatica World where they just announced their AI agent studio. Boomi just announced their AI capabilities. ServiceNow just came out with their IT tower. Agent Force from Salesforce. Everybody is making their pitch for how they are going to orchestrate and manage agents and how we are going to have governance so we don't have another layer of massive technical debt that suddenly collapses on us like every other layer has done in the past. And so I'm interested in that next step as well. Building one or two agents will be interesting at proof of concept, but our real challenge is what happens then. I remember the halcyon days of yore 50 minutes ago when I was saying that we weren't going to talk about agents, and then, Sam, you just...
Of course we are. Come on.
There cannot be a show without agents. We have to have, and now we are going to have some grumpy agents here as well. And that's the intent of the show. I mean, our goal is really to find value and show you value, I guess, from these conversations. On that note, we meet every week on Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So we'll come back next week again for another episode. On that note, thanks everybody for tuning in today.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.